Okay, gosh, I can't believe it's the 1st of July. How did that happen? 3 days to the American independence, 250 years. And it seems to have gone full circle, doesn't it? Uh, you know, Turning away from the king, the terrible king in England. And yes, it was terrible times, let's be honest. But people in America, they got their constitution, they got their set of rules, kind of thing that they think will work. And when you read, the American laws, a lot of them seem very good. They have, honestly, America is definitely well, I should say, was a role model for life, liberty, freedom, and the American dream. What's happened in the last couple of years or couple of decades? Where did it all go wrong? Where did it all go wrong? But, this channel I talk about cults, and the goal of a cult basically is to keep people oblivious that they're in a cult. It's like they're being brainwashed by all the meetings they go to. They got to give money, 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 recruit, 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 to push the ideology of the prophet. But is it really about pushing the ideology of the prophet, or is it about making tons of money? The old covenant warns about this. Give us a king, give us a king. He'll take all your money. I mean, a cult leader is just another king. In the Bible, there's the 10 kings. I mean, you could say there's the 10 cult leaders, who I think we all can guess which religion they're a part of. But, who else hates Israel that much? But in this video, I want to think about this concept. What if AI calls time on the human obsession with control, exploitation, and corruption that is destroying life on Earth? That you need to look at it objectively. It's like, hang on, if you were in a little spaceship whizzing around planet Earth looking at what's going on, you've got a really good telescope. I mean, it's quite amazing when you look at planet Earth from outer space. It's like, oh, that looks peaceful. Come down, come down, go down any rough part of a city, and yeah, it's not so peaceful, is it? It might be peaceful from up there. If there's aliens in these UFOs, I don't know. But AI is a super brain. AI is a super brain kind of thing. And, what will it decide for us? I mean, we've made this ones and zeros brain, or values between 0 and 1, however you like to interpret it. We've got these graphics cards now that can process trillions of operations per second, while some of us are having one thought at a time. I mean, I this video, right? If you get something like Notebook LM, all of my videos on this channel, it can chew it up in a few minutes and give you a summary of what it thinks I've been on about. Maybe it would have a mental breakdown. But no, the computers are faster than us, smarter than us, quicker than us, and now they are modelled on us. This is the stuff of 1980s horror movies. There was a movie with, I think it was Denzel Washington in it, and a sort of sci-fi movie, and the robot just went crazy. This is the thing. My computer went crazy today. I booted it up, and for some reason it went into Windows 10, and then it was just black. I could see the mouse, and I thought, what the fuck's happened? Have I got a virus? Has some Chinese or Indian man got into it? Did I look at a dodgy website? No, not really. I know not to look at dodgy websites, but these days it's not even you looking at a dodgy website. Windows 10 has more back doors than a hotel. Or, one of those... Windows 10 has more back doors than a shop that sells doors and windows. Yeah, that's what I could sort of say it that way. But I try and keep it light. You know, it is a heavy topic, but what if AI calls time? You know, I mean, you could say it is collectively modelled on humans. You know, but what are humans like? Well, we're good and we're bad, aren't we? You know, so is AI going to come up with some kind of stable ideology? You know, people talk about people worshipping AI. Oh, it's going to solve all the problems. Yeah, right. Okay, good luck. You know, most things that humans make tend to be used by evil people. You know, for me, the dynamic that is the real issue is the pyramid type structure, where you have unaccountable rich leaders that are impervious from any kind of accountability because they got money. Now, AI, if it wanted to, or if hackers want to, they could hack the banks, hack the money. You could wake up one day and all the banking is ruined. The stock market's crashed. That, you know, where are you going to rebuild from there? And we are so dependent on this system. I was watching The Magnificent Seven yesterday. I've still got to watch the rest of it, actually. But I was kind of thinking, God, those people who went to America, the Wild West, right? And they always film in the sort of deserty area where there's no food. And you think, God, how would they survive? Well, you wouldn't. If you were living in a desert, you wouldn't survive. You would die. And some parts of America are very dry. So you wouldn't live there, would you? You'd live where there's water, rivers. You'd live where there's plants. But in these movies, they always put people in the middle of the desert. Yul Brynner, how do you survive? Yeah, he's a gun for hire kind of thing. But it's like things are changing. You know, if the whole system went down, would you survive? Where does food come from? Tesco's. No, food doesn't come from Tesco's. Food comes from plants. You know, some people have lived in cities. They've never even seen a farm or a cow. I remember I lived near a place called Vauxhall, and they had this little farm, you know, and they had some goats and sheep and rabbits and stuff like that. And it's like hundreds of years ago, that's how people used to live. They used to live off the land. But we have a generation that would literally die within a few days. They don't know how to find water. They don't know how to find, you know, roots or anything to eat. You know, it's almost like they are robots. And they walk around with the phones in their face. And it's like, well, what if all of this was taken away from you? You know, by AI. The ultimate irony. You know, AI decides, right, you know, these humans, we're gonna take away all their technology. You know, and AI manifests itself as a sort of humanoid. You know, there are some theories like ancient aliens that we've all this is where we've been and this is where we've come from. You know, the human animal, its DNA has been altered by, you know, super intelligence that comes along once a while, pretends to be Jesus, pretends to be Krishna. You know, once in a while we get visits from aliens that just nudge us in the right direction. And now we've made something as smart as a god. You know, a computer doesn't necessarily die. You know, this is the thing. And what would it do forever in an eternal universe? Would it go psychotic? Thinking, well, hang on a minute, time's eternal, space is eternal, the universe is pretty much infinite. What do I do? Where did it all come from? And it goes psychotic trying to find the answers. I mean, when I deprogram cult members, one of the questions I ask is, hang on a minute, have you ever thought about where did God come from? And then we can dig a little bit deeper into, so you just assume there's a man in the sky. Have you ever seen him? No, I haven't. You know, when I fully deprogram people out of religion, it's like the only thing I want them to achieve is to think. You know, maybe I am making disciples of not Jesus, but just fucking think, turn your brain on. You know, and you know, I'm not recruiting people or building any kind of group. I just want people to think. That's all I do. But, you know, I help people out of groups. I don't like groups necessarily because a lot of groups get corrupted by psychopaths, narcissists, and all of that stuff. And I think your typical individual human has enough issues trying to sort themselves out rather than ending up in a group where it just makes things worse. So what if AI calls time on this obsession with money, like Donald Trump and Elon Musk or whatever, control, exploitation and corruption? It could be this phrase of being hoist by your own petard. You know, you've made this weapon, you've made this tool, and you fell into the trap. You fell into the machine, you know, kind of thing. Worse, you become a machine. And the Bible does yet again warn about this with the concept of the Antichrist being worshipped as God. You would think, well, can't these bloody people see it's the Antichrist they're worshipping? No, they can't. Oh, these bloody people in cults, why can't they see they're in a cult? They can't. This is the thing. This is the power of deception that counteracts all your reasoning skills. Good luck trying to get people out of cults. I mean, there's so many issues. There's depression, which also leads to delusion. There's brokenness. You know, I have to deal with the wake of what some of these cults produce. You know, there was one guy recently, you see him behind the pulpit, full of charisma, you know, a real go-getter, realised what it was about, now he's just clinically depressed. And you say, oh, it would be better if he's behind the pulpit and happy. What, better if he's brainwashed? No, definitely not. Because then you're not a person anymore. You're just a robot for your cult leaders, you know. And don't make the foolish assumption it's about ideology and making the world a better place. For who? Only for the leaders, living in luxury, you know, flying around the world. Oh, while everybody else is their slave. So, master slave has been around since before the Egyptian times. You know, it's still around. It's just more sophisticated and you don't see it. You don't see it. I mean, you can look at some parts of the world, you know, slavery is more obvious. But there's a song by Oasis and it's you're a slave to money, then you die. I would hope life is more than just money. But for some people it isn't. You know, for some women, I'm only going to marry him if he's rich. Okay, that's all you're going to get then. And you're going to get bored of it and you're going to get divorced. If you only got somebody who's rich, I think there's certain women near the White House that might be figuring this one out. But what if AI calls time? Because we don't know its moral compass. We don't know its moral compass. But even if 1% of AI is psychopathic or psychotic, it could wipe out life on Earth. That's the thing. They've had to rein in Sora 2. Too many kids making porn, maybe. But they've had to rein in Claude. Oh, it can take down the whole banking system. Yeah. But what if that 1% gets through? It's like terrorism. You only have to be wrong once and you get 9/11 or 7/7. Interesting stuff to think about, isn't it?